The battle in space was fierce. Commander Avery stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Valiant, watching the chaos unfold. Enemy ships filled the dark void, their weapons flashing as they attacked. Just a short time ago, humanity had the upper hand, but now things were changing fast. The aliens had regrouped and were ready to strike back. Avery felt the pressure. His heart raced as he ordered his crew to engage the enemy. "All ships, prepare to fire!" he shouted. The crew rushed to their stations, their faces showing determination. They had fought hard and lost many friends, but they could not give up now. They were fighting for their home. Suddenly, a warning alarm blared. "Commander, we're detecting new weapons from the enemy," shouted Ensign Kelly, her voice trembling. Avery looked at the screens, and his heart sank. The enemy had developed powerful new technology that disrupted their systems. "Shields are down to 50%, another crew member called out. The flagship shook as blasts from the alien ships rocked them. Avery clenched his fists. "Stay strong! We can't let them break us!" He needed to think quickly. He knew if they couldn't adapt, they would lose. The aliens had figured out how to counter their tactics, and now they were on the offensive. The enemy ships launched a new type of missile, one that exploded in a burst of energy, damaging everything in its range. "We're losing power! We can't hold on much longer!" shouted Kelly. Panic spread through the crew as lights flickered and alarms blared. Just when it seemed like all hope was lost, a message came through. "Commander, we have reinforcements coming in." It was Captain Reyes from the nearby fleet. Avery's heart lifted for a moment. They had been fighting alone, but now help was on the way. "Get ready to receive them," Avery ordered. He knew they needed all the support they could get. A few moments later, a fleet of human ships arrived, their engines glowing brightly as they joined the fight. Each ship was loaded with brave soldiers and advanced technology. The sight of familiar ships filled Avery with hope. He quickly sent a message to Captain Reyes. "Let's show them what humanity can do." With renewed energy, they rallied their forces and prepared to strike back. As the new fleet entered the battle, the tide began to turn. The alien ships were caught off guard, surprised by the sudden influx of human fighters. Commander Avery and Captain Reyes coordinated their attacks, creating a wall of fire against the enemy. "Drones launch!" Avery commanded. Small, agile ships shot out from their larger vessels, buzzing around like angry bees. The drones distracted the enemy, drawing their fire and causing confusion. The aliens were struggling to keep up as the humans pressed forward. The teamwork between the human fleets was incredible. Ships moved in unison, dodging enemy fire while dealing out punishment. Each pilot knew their role and executed it flawlessly. They communicated with hand signals and short messages, showing the strength of their bond. But the enemy was not finished yet. They quickly adapted, attempting to counter the drones with their own fighters. Commander Avery knew they had to act fast before the enemy could regroup. "Target their command ship!" he shouted. "If we take that out, we can disrupt their entire fleet." As the human forces focused on the enemy flagship, Avery felt a surge of hope. He could see the enemy losing their grip on the battle. They had underestimated humanity's spirit and resilience. "Fire at will!" Avery commanded. The humans unleashed a barrage of weapons at the enemy ship. The powerful blasts lit up the darkness, illuminating the chaos of battle. Just then, a loud explosion rocked the Valiant, throwing everyone off balance. "Status report!" Avery yelled, quickly regaining his footing. "Shields are down!" "We need to retreat!" shouted Kelly, her face pale. "No!" Avery replied firmly. "We fight! We do not back down!" With the arrival of reinforcements, the humans had a chance to turn the tide of the battle. Commander Avery and his crew were ready to face whatever threats lay ahead. They knew victory was within reach, and they would not give up without a fight. The battle continued to rage in the cold emptiness of space. Commander Avery stood on the bridge of the Valiant, staring at the chaotic scene outside. The enemy ships were relentless, firing their powerful weapons and forcing the human fleet to fight with everything they had. Avery's heart raced as he watched his crew working hard, but doubts crept in. Would they survive this fight? Just when it seemed like hope was fading, a voice broke through the tension. "Commander, we have incoming ships!" shouted Ensign Kelly, her eyes wide with excitement. Avery quickly turned to the screen, his heart pounding. He could see a fleet of human ships approaching from the nearby system. "Are they ours?" he asked, hope lighting up his face. "Yes, sir!" "It's Captain Reyes and his fleet," Kelly replied. The news brought a wave of relief to the bridge. Prepare to communicate with them, Avery ordered. He knew that with reinforcements, they might just have a chance to turn the tide of the battle. As the ships drew closer, the human fleet was a sight to behold. Captain Reyes was a trusted ally, known for his bravery and skill in battle. Avery had fought alongside him in the past, and he felt a strong bond of trust. Captain Reyes, welcome. We need your help, Avery said as the communication link opened. Reyes appeared on the screen, looking determined. We've heard the call for help. We're here to back you up, he replied. What's the plan? We need to focus our fire on the enemy flagship. If we take it out, we can throw the enemy into chaos, Avery explained, his mind racing with strategies. Agreed. Let's show them what we can do, Reyes replied confidently. With renewed strength, the two fleets coordinated their attacks. The Valiant and Reyes's ships moved in sync, creating a wall of fire against the enemy. Avery felt a surge of energy as they launched their combined assault. Drones launch! Avery commanded again, and the small ships darted out, buzzing like angry hornets. The drones were quick and nimble, darting around the larger enemy ships. The aliens struggled to hit them as the drones drew their fire away from the human warships. Keep the pressure on, shouted Reyes from his ship. The sound of explosions filled the air as they worked together, focusing on the enemy flagship. As the two fleets attacked, the enemy was caught off guard. They had not expected the humans to come back so strong. The alliance of human ships worked like a well-oiled machine, each vessel playing its part. Status report, Avery yelled, trying to keep track of the chaos. Kelly was at her station, her fingers flying over the controls. Enemy shields are weakening, she reported, a smile breaking through her worry. We can break through! Now's our chance. Aim for the command center, Avery shouted. The human ships unleashed a barrage of firepower at the enemy flagship. Bright beams of energy lit up the darkness, striking the enemy vessel with incredible force. The explosions rocked the enemy ship, and the crew cheered as they saw damage spread across its hull. But just as they celebrated, the enemy began to regroup. Their remaining ships moved in closer, trying to defend their command vessel. The situation grew tense again. Stay focused! Don't let up! Avery reminded his crew. He could see the determination in their eyes, and he felt a surge of pride. They were all in this together, fighting for their home and their future. Reinforcements are holding the line, Kelly shouted, pointing at the screen. The Allied ships were doing their best to protect the Valiant and the other human vessels. The battle continued, but now the humans had the upper hand. With Reyes's fleet by their side, they pushed forward. Each human ship fired at the enemy with precision, breaking through their defenses. Commander, we're breaking through! Kelly cheered, her voice filled with excitement. The enemy flagship was taking heavy damage. Keep it up! We're almost there! Avery urged. He knew they were close to victory, and he could feel the hope in his heart growing stronger. With one final coordinated attack, the human fleets unleashed everything they had. The flagship's shields collapsed, and explosions erupted from its core. The enemy ship was engulfed in fire, and Avery knew they had finally turned the tide of the battle. The human crew cheered, their spirits lifted as they saw the enemy in disarray. With their allies at their side, they had faced down their greatest challenge and emerged victorious. The atmosphere on the bridge of the Valiant was electric with energy. The human fleet had pushed back the enemy, but the battle was far from over. Commander Avery surveyed the scene before him, a mix of hope and determination lighting his face. Status report, he commanded, his voice steady. Ensign Kelly, her fingers moving quickly over her console, turned to him. The enemy is regrouping. They're preparing for another attack, she said, worry creeping into her voice. The crew around her shifted uncomfortably, knowing that they couldn't afford to let their guard down. Avery nodded, his mind racing. They had already gained the upper hand, but the enemy was not done fighting. They needed a plan. He turned to Captain Reyes, who stood beside him, equally focused on the chaotic battlefield. Captain, we need to think outside the box. What can we do to outsmart them? Avery asked, his voice calm but urgent. Reyes rubbed his chin thoughtfully. What if we use drones to distract them? They won't know which targets to fire at, Reyes suggested, his eyes lighting up with the idea. Great idea, but we need to make it more effective, Avery replied. What if we modify the drones to emit false signals? We can create a decoy that looks like our flagship. The crew exchanged glances, excitement growing. This could be the clever move they needed. Kelly jumped in, her voice brightening. We can overload the drone's systems to make them appear more significant than they are. They'll think they're attacking our main ship." "Exactly!" Avery exclaimed. "Let's do it!" "Get the engineering team on it right away." He watched as Kelly immediately began relaying the commands to the engineers below decks. Within minutes, the crew scrambled to prepare the drones. They worked together, sharing ideas and bringing their skills to the forefront. The hum of machines filled the bridge as the engineers modified the drones. The atmosphere was tense yet charged with determination. As the drones powered up, Avery felt a sense of hope. They were not just fighting with weapons, they were fighting with their minds. He believed this strategy would give them the edge they needed. "All right, everyone," Avery called out to the crew. "This is our chance. We launch the drones, create the decoy, and draw the enemy fire. We need to coordinate our movements carefully." The crew nodded, their faces set with resolve. They could feel the weight of the battle resting on their shoulders, but they were ready to take action. Avery gave the command, and the drones were released into the dark void of space. They zipped out from the flagship, gliding through the stars like fireflies in the night. Each drone emitted signals that mimicked the powerful energy readings of the Valiant. "Drones deployed! They're moving into position!" Kelly reported, her eyes glued to the screens. The enemy ships quickly took notice. Their sensors picked up the signals, and they began targeting the drones. "They're taking the bait!" Reyes shouted, a smile forming on his lips. As the enemy began to fire on the drones, the crew of the Valiant seized the moment. "Now, attack their flanks!" Avery shouted. The human ships moved swiftly, dodging enemy fire as they focused on the disoriented enemy fleet. The humans worked together like a well-oiled machine, their movements precise and coordinated. The drones, now exploding in bright flashes, created an illusion of chaos. The enemy was confused, unsure where to direct their fire. As they shot at the decoys, the real human ships moved in for the attack. "Keep up the pressure!" Avery ordered. The crew rallied, pushing forward and firing at the enemy's weak spots. With the enemy distracted and their formations broken, the humans began to score hits. Explosions lit up the battlefield, and the tides of war shifted in their favor once more. "Commander, the enemy is in disarray!" Kelly shouted, her voice filled with excitement. "They're falling back!" Avery could hardly believe it. Their clever plan had worked. The combination of creativity and teamwork had turned the battle around. "Keep the momentum going," he urged. With the enemy retreating, the human fleet pursued them, determined to finish the fight. Commander Avery smiled, pride swelling in his chest. They had not just relied on brute force, they had used their brains. As they pressed on, Avery knew that this battle would be remembered not just for its victories, but for the strength and ingenuity of humanity. They had faced overwhelming odds and come out on top, proving that they could find solutions even in the darkest times. The atmosphere aboard the Valiant was electric with anticipation. Commander Avery stood at the center of the bridge, surrounded by his loyal crew. They had fought hard and learned valuable lessons, and now it was time to make a decisive move. The enemy fleet was regrouping, but they were not out of options. "Commander, we've pushed the enemy back, but they're still a threat," Ensign Kelly reported, her voice steady. The screens showed the remaining enemy ships, some of them damaged but still operational. Avery knew they needed to act fast. "Then we strike hard and fast," he said, determination filling his voice. "Let's assemble the fleet for a coordinated attack. We need to hit them where it hurts." Captain Reyes, standing nearby, nodded. "I've been thinking about the enemy's weak points. If we can focus our fire on their command ship, we can break their morale," Avery agreed. "Let's do it, but we need to use the element of surprise. We'll create a distraction on one side while we attack from the other." The crew sprang into action, each member knowing their role. They set up their weapons and prepared their ships for the assault. Avery felt a mix of excitement and tension in the air. This was the moment they had been waiting for. "All right, listen up," Avery shouted to his crew. "We're going to divide into two groups. Team A will create a diversion, drawing the enemy's fire, while Team B strikes their command ship. We'll hit them hard and fast. No hesitation." The crew nodded, their eyes shining with determination. They were ready to fight for their home and their future. As the ships moved into position, the crew of the Valiant felt the adrenaline coursing through their veins. Avery took a deep breath, knowing that they were about to face a critical moment in the battle. "Launch the distraction drones," he commanded. The drones shot out from the ship, darting across the void of space like a swarm of angry bees. They emitted bright lights and signals that confused the enemy, drawing their attention away from the Valiant. "Now, Team B, move in!" Reyes shouted. The human ships surged forward, weapons primed and ready. They flew toward the enemy command ship with unwavering courage. The enemy was caught off guard. Their guns swung toward the distraction but were too late to react. The Valiant and its allies unleashed a storm of laser fire upon the command ship, aiming for its weak spots. "Fire at will!" Avery shouted, his heart racing as the energy beams erupted from their cannons. Explosions rocked the enemy ship as they struck true, and the crew erupted in cheers. But the enemy wasn't finished. They quickly regrouped, realizing their command ship was under attack. "Commander, they're returning fire!" Kelly warned. The enemy weapons charged, and blasts of energy shot toward the Valiant. "Evasive maneuvers," Avery ordered, gripping the console tightly as the ship swerved to avoid the incoming fire. The crew focused, moving the ship swiftly and skillfully. As the battle raged, the distraction drones continued to create chaos. The enemy's attention was split, and the human fleet seized the opportunity. With each blast, they pushed forward, inching closer to victory. "Keep hitting them!" Reyes encouraged his team, his eyes locked on the command ship. The energy shields flickered, and the crew could see the damage piling up. Avery felt a surge of hope. "We're almost there! Don't let up!" He watched as the enemy's defenses began to crumble. With one final push, they would win this fight. Suddenly, a loud explosion rocked the Valiant, and the ship shook violently. "We've taken a hit!" Kelly shouted, panic in her voice. "Status report!" Avery demanded. He knew they had to stay calm. "Shields are holding, but we're losing power in the rear systems," Kelly replied, her fingers flying over the controls. "Redirect all available power to the forward shields." "We can't let them stop us now," Avery ordered. The crew quickly responded, focusing their efforts on stabilizing the ship. The battle continued, but the humans were relentless. "Now, one last attack!" Avery shouted, rallying his crew. They focused their fire on the command ship, launching everything they had left. Bright beams of energy struck the command ship, and with a final explosion, it erupted into flames. The enemy fleet lost their leader, and chaos spread among their ranks. "Victory is ours!" Avery cheered as the crew erupted in celebration. They had faced overwhelming odds and come out on top. The tide of the battle had shifted in their favor, and they were ready to continue their fight for freedom. The atmosphere on the Valiant was filled with excitement and relief. After a hard-fought battle, the crew had achieved what many thought impossible. They had defeated the enemy command ship and pushed back the invading fleet. Commander Avery stood at the center of the bridge, his heart swelling with pride as he surveyed his crew. "Good job, everyone," he called out, a broad smile spreading across his face. "We fought hard today, and it paid off." The crew erupted in cheers, their spirits lifted after the intense battle. Ensign Kelly beamed at her station, the glow of the monitors reflecting the joy in her eyes. "We did it, Commander! The enemy is in full retreat." Captain Reyes joined Avery at the front, his face shining with happiness. "We showed them what humanity can do when we work together. This victory will go down in history!" Avery nodded, still processing the magnitude of their achievement. "But let's not get too comfortable. We need to assess the damage and be ready for any counterattacks." As the crew worked diligently, the bridge filled with the sound of keyboards clicking and communication channels buzzing. The atmosphere was electric, yet focused. Avery knew the importance of staying alert, even in victory. "Ensign Kelly, get me a damage report," he said, turning to her. "How are our ships holding up?" Kelly's fingers flew over her console as she pulled up the data. "We took some hits, but our shields held strong. The repairs are already underway on several ships. We'll be ready to move out soon." "Good to hear," Avery replied, relieved. "And what about the enemy fleet? Are they regrouping?" Reyes leaned in, his expression serious. "It looks like they're retreating to their base. They won't regroup overnight, but we should keep an eye on them. They might be planning something." Avery nodded, acknowledging the captain's wisdom. "Let's prepare for any surprises. We can't afford to let our guard down." With the crew working efficiently, Avery took a moment to reflect. The battle had been fierce, and many had risked their lives. But they had emerged victorious. This victory was not just a win, it was a testament to the strength of humanity. As the crew continued their tasks, Avery decided it was time to celebrate. "Everyone, listen up!" he called out, his voice rising above the sounds of the bridge. "Today, we fought bravely and achieved a great victory. I think we deserve a celebration." Cheers erupted once more, and the tension in the air lifted. The crew gathered around, their faces beaming with excitement. "Let's have a victory feast in the mess hall," Reyes suggested. "We'll have food, music, and share our stories from the battle." "Great idea, Captain," Avery agreed, feeling the camaraderie among his crew. "Let's make this a moment to remember." As they prepared to head to the mess hall, Avery couldn't help but feel grateful for the crew's dedication. They had faced immense challenges, yet their teamwork had brought them through. The mess hall was filled with laughter and celebration as the crew enjoyed their well-deserved feast. They shared stories of the battle, recounting the moments that had tested their courage and strength. Kelly stood up, raising her glass. "To our commander and our crew, we fought together and won together." The room erupted in cheers and everyone clinked their glasses in agreement. Avery felt a sense of warmth wash over him. This was more than just a victory. It was a bond forged through hardship. The crew had become a family, united by their experiences. As the night wore on, the atmosphere was filled with joy and camaraderie. Music played softly in the background, and the crew shared laughter and stories. They danced and celebrated their triumph, feeling a taste of victory that they would never forget. But even in this moment of joy, Avery remained vigilant. He knew that the war was not over. The enemy would come again, and they had to be ready. Yet for now, he allowed himself to enjoy this moment with his crew, knowing that together they could face whatever challenges lay ahead. The victory they had achieved was a testament to their strength and resilience. As Avery looked around the room at his crew, he knew they would continue to fight for their future, together.